another difference is the long-term multi-generational thinking that permeates Chinese culture. So how does that differ from the West, sort of the Western style capitalism of quarterly focused thinking?
The Chinese are both the most patient and the most short-termist economic actors I met. The patience I don't need to explain because I think the political continuity means that they can make plans for 2 decades ahead, right? Even longer. The investment of Chinese parents in their children is a multi-decade long project, and they save. Chinese people love to save because they think that they'll have even more money if they save that money rather than spend it on a ski vacation. So that I think it's patently obvious to most people around the world. But I think that most of them would not have known that there's a very popular motto in China, which is called short, flat, fast. That's the impatient part of the Chinese culture, especially with respect to the economy. Short, flat, fast was used to describe a winning volleyball strategy that eventually became adapted to describing the society as a whole and economic decision making.
Nice.
If you're an investor, you only want to invest in things that you can quickly turn around, make a lot of money, and don't need to do much work. It also applies to marriages. So a short courtship, a very flat emotional relationship, and a fast divorce. That that is how you see these companies rise. Within a very short period of time. Of course, investors are only interested in those companies that can turn around and exit in a very short period of time, making many, many multiples. And so, in that sense, people are very, very impatient, right? I sit on some boards of these long-standing companies, and the values are just so different. Even though a lot of these public companies are constrained by the quarterly results and so forth, but the values are about sustaining something, a company, for a long time, thinking about organic growth, thinking about investments for the future, sustainability. Maybe it's that competition, maybe it's the speed that we're used to in China. People think about short. This dichotomy is very, very interesting.
That's surprising to me.
Yeah, well,
It's
this
a
is
surprising idea, right? So that there is a kind of in the West conception of Chinese culture, Chinese economy, that everything is usually 50, 100, 200 years out. You have this long vision. But you're basically saying that there's a deep, in the business sector, impatience about everything.
it's a transitory phenomenon, I'd say. But if you look at the cheaper stuff, poor quality, that's a reflection of that. The copying, it's the same kind of mentality. Just get ahead quickly. But again, that is all shifting. That is all shifting because China is now in a different stage of development. If you ask the younger generation, they really care about quality. They care about values. And these companies, these very successful companies, successful in 5 years, 10 years, found themselves in a very difficult position after a longer period of time. So that short, flat, fast attitude, which was so popular, especially before the pandemic, that's actually somewhat disappearing. So in some sense, this economic downturn is not that bad for China because it made the Chinese realize that it's not always going to go up, and it made them really look down deeper into what they really should be focused on. That there will be cycles, there will be up and downs, and so these very short-termist thinking and opportunistic way of driving business will ultimately fail. It's bad for China that we're having a sustained economic softness, sustained economic softness, but I think it's also a very, very important lesson for the Chinese people to go through.